What's up guys, welcome to new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, and today we are continuing with the RPG series. Today we will finally begin with the equipment system. We'll begin to structure all the database and so on, make a pickable item that we can add into our inventory, and with the next couple of episodes we'll be implementing the UI, slots and so on. It's gonna be a very easy video to follow, so let's get started. Alright, so first of all, let me show you a bit on how the equipment system will be structured. So, of course, we will take again the inspiration from Assassin's Creed Origins. So, as you can see, we will have the character in the middle, and then we'll have a few slots that we can equip our weapon, okay, or item in general, like armor, shield and so on. Okay, so as you can see, this is pretty much the reference image. Now we'll probably simplify a bit more. Instead of having 2 ranged and 2 melee, we might have just one of each and then have it on the side, so melee, shield, and then armor and ranged, something like that. So probably will simplify a bit, but of course this is totally customizable. You can change it however you want, but of course this is how the RPG series will be based. Now in terms of structure, it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you open the slot, you have a list of all the items that you have in your inventory, so you can go ahead and just equip it. So today we'll, like I just mentioned before in the intro, we will just begin making the database, the structure, and adding some weapons, and then also going ahead and making the pickable items so we can go ahead and pick it up and add it into our inventory. Okay, so with no more information, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go into Unreal Engine, and the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and create a new folder so we can have everything a bit more organized. So let's go ahead and right click, new folder, and this will be the equipment system. Okay, let's go ahead and open it up, and now the first thing that we have to do is create a structure. So if we right click and go into blueprints, you will see that we have a structure. Okay, so we go ahead and select it. We can name this S_weapons. Now if you want to make it more general and in the future also be able to equip different types of not weapons but maybe items in general, for example, I don't know, I mean honestly we're gonna also be adding shields and armor under this structure, so it might not really in the future make sense on on a way called weapons. So if you want, you can really just put it as items, okay, but for me I'm gonna basically leave it as weapons, as I think it will just be a clearer name for a structure in general. So go ahead and open it, and down here what we can do is put all the different parameters that each weapon will have. So in our case, let's begin with the first parameter, which will be the name of the item itself. So this will be called name, and this will be a type of string because it's just basically text. Let's add another variable, and the second one will have the damage. So basically the damage that this weapon will do. In this case, we'll go ahead and put a float. Let's do another variable. The next one we'll go ahead and be, let's say, the required level to equip it. So required level, and this will be an integer, and then let's do the icon. So the icon that later on in the UI will display. So the icon will go ahead and be a 2D texture. So texture 2D object reference, there we go. Let's add another variable, and this will be the static mesh. Okay, this will actually be the model itself that we will add into the character later on. So this will be a static mesh. There we go, static mesh object reference, and then finally we will have a type. Okay, and you will see what do you mean with type? Well, the things that there will be in a specific slot for melee, or mainly I don't know how you spell it in English, but melee weapon, and then another one from ranged, another one for armor, and then another one for shields. Okay, so you will not be able to equip, for example, the sword in the ranged or in the shield slot, you know what I mean? So we'll be a bit more structured. So what we have to do here is create an enumerator. So basically, let me show you what is an enumerator. Just right click, and I believe it was in there under miscellaneous. Was it here? Let me just go ahead and type it. So you can just go into whatever part on the pop-up and just type enumerator. Okay, enumeration is under blueprints. Okay, so we can just go to blueprints and enumeration. I didn't remember what it was. Anyway, we can just name this underscore really weapon types. Yeah, weapon underscore types. There we go. Weapon types. Okay, and now we can open this. And on here, what we can do is start adding just 3 types. So we can just add an enumerator, and this will be, let's say, melee weapons. Okay, then we'll add another enumerator. This will be range weapons, and let's say that we're gonna add another one which will be for the armor, and then we'll add another one which will be for the shields. So shields. Okay, so now we can save this and close it. So now back in our structure, we can put the type to be the e underscore weapon types that we have just created. It's an underscore weapon types. There we go. And now we can select it. So now later on here, you will see that for each, so this will be like, for example, the values that will appear for each weapon, okay, individually. So we will fill up the name, the damage, the icon, and so on. And then you can see this is the thing that does the enumerator. We can go ahead and just have a drop down of all the options that we will have. So right now these are the default values, so we will just leave it like that. Anyway, so now we can close this and save it. And what we have to do is create another structure. Okay, you'll be okay, another one. Yes. Okay, this might add a bit of confusion into it, but we will have another structure into it. Let's go again into blueprints, and it's gonna be structure, and this will be called s underscore slots. And let's open this structure over here. And basically this structure will just have an item. Okay, this will be called item, and this will be a data table row handle. And you will see later on why we are making this, but basically when we create our pickable item, and also later on in the slots reference, we can just directly reference a single parameter, and then from there start breaking the values into our whole icon, name, damage, etc. So it's just making things more organized, as we will only have one parameter later on for each weapon. Okay, so you will see later on how it basically goes ahead and works. But anyway, so what we have to do right now is create a database for our weapons. So just right click and we go into now, yes, miscellaneous. It's gonna be a data table. Okay, so now we need to pick the structure, and in this case will be basically the S weapons. Okay, not the S slots. Okay, it will be S weapons. Let's say okay, and now it's gonna be db for database underscore weapons. Let's go ahead and open this one up. So now basically we can start adding our items. So let's add the first one. Let's go ahead and separate this a bit so we have it a bit more organized, you know. So it's a bit better. Let's just put this over here. There we go. Okay, so first of all, let's change the row name, and this will be basically the first item that we will have. In our case, it will be a simple sword. So I'm just gonna call this sword, which is pretty much, I think, that the one that you're gonna start. It's gonna be light sword, and it just said that it's not valid because we can't have any spaces, so we have to put an underscore. So that's the row name, and that's different from the name in the parameters. So now we have to put again light sword on here. So that's always a different thing. So on damage, we can put, for example, let's say 10 for now. The values of damage and required level, we will, you know, fill it up with actual values in the future once we have to start leveling the game. But for now, it's just kind of to range ourselves. Let's say the required level is 0, because I mean this is the weapon that you will start with, so you can start with level 0. And then icon, for now, let's just put, for example, this one over here. In the future, of course, we'll have proper icons. And inside of mesh, we actually have our weapon, sorry, our sword. So we can just go ahead and select it. And then types, well, it will be melee weapons. Great. So now we can add another one, and this will be basically, it says we will have a heavy sword. Again, heavy sword. and the damage will be, well, let's say double 20, but the required level will be, let's say 5. The icon, let's put for example this green guy, and the static mesh, we don't have anything, so let's put for example this sphere over here, and again it will be melee weapons. Let's add one last one, which will be basically the bow. So basically wooden, let's say wooden bow. Again, wooden bow on the name. On the damage, let's say the arrow will be adding 5. The required level will be 2. The icon will be, let's say, this one is like an aim for the arc. That's perfect. And then let's say that it will be a cone, and this will be under the ranged weapon. So you can see how you can start adding weapons and how the flow will start to build up. So it will basically be like this. Okay, so slowly you will be able to fill your weapons. So we have just started with 3, just to go ahead and start up. Alright, so now that we have our database and structures created with some values assigned, it is time to actually create the item that will basically pick up from the floor. Now, of course, later in the future, we will add the option that it will not be necessary to have it on the floor and pick it up manually. We can just, when we finish a quest, we can just add it or whatever. But for now, we're just gonna go ahead and just place it in the world, so it's easier for us to, figure how things will work. So let's go ahead and just right click in the folder and create a new blueprint class, and this will be an actor because it will just be placed in the world. This will be BP_weapon. Let's go ahead and open this up. Great, so the first thing that we will add into it will be basically a static mesh. So in here, static mesh. So of course, later on, we will apply the one that will be in our database. So the next thing that we have to do is create a new variable, and this will be the item data. So now we compile and select it, we can go and change the variable type, and this will be as slots. So yeah, the second one that we created, okay? The one that probably confused a lot of you guys. Anyway, let's go and put instance edit tool and expose to spawn. So basically, when we will add it into the world, we can just select it and change the parameter over there. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's go back into the weapon, and now we can open up the data. And the data table will be basically the DB weapons. And then the row name, well, this will basically be assigned later on. So basically, from when we select an item, we'll be able to pick it up and select it. So for now, let's just say it's gonna be our heavy sword. So basically, this is how you will select which item it is. Okay, so now that we have our item data variable created, what we need to do is go ahead and assign the static mesh. So what I'm going to do is go into the construction script, and basically this will always run also in the editor. So not only when we are basically going ahead and playing the game when we press play, but also when we are just working in the editor. So it is more convenient for us to see already the changes when we are editing the world. So what we need to do is get our item data and go ahead and split it 2 times. Now probably you didn't really know what just happened there, but let me just explain it with a few notes. So we get it and go ahead and call the break slots. Basically, we are accessing the item. So if you can see, if we go into slots, we only have one parameter. In this case, we are going ahead and breaking and accessing that specific property. So now we can go ahead and break it again, and we'll be able to access the data table. So we are doing this with only one node. So it's a bit more convenient for us, it's just more organized in my opinion. So now we can go ahead and get the row, get data table row in singular, and plug this in, and then plug in the row name. And now what we're gonna do is go ahead and break the weapons. And now, as you can see, we'll be able to go ahead and get all the properties, but in a more organized way, because we didn't have to go ahead, because it's just saved in a nice variable. Anyway, so now what we get to do is go and get the static mesh and assign it on here. So let's get the component and then call this node, which is set static mesh. Let's put it in row found and then put the static mesh over here. And now if we compound save and we go here and we get our weapon and drag it into the scene, you will see in some moments. Please load. There we go. It will update. As you can see right now, it is selecting the sphere because I have the heavy sword, and it's what I had basically on the database, as you can see. But if I were to go ahead and change it to the light sword, here, you can see that now we have the sword. So basically it is going ahead and it's working. It is going ahead and depending on the item that we're selecting, it is assigning the stat image that we had. So everything is really cool. It's just going ahead and saved in a single database, so we can change whatever values on here, and depending on the weapon type, it will go ahead and automatically apply all the changes. So it is extremely modular and very useful for us, which is exactly what we want. So now let's go ahead and make that we can go ahead and pick these weapons and add it into our inventory list. So later on in the future, when we make the other episodes and start with the UI, we can go ahead and open these slots and find all the weapons that we have in inventory and be able to drag them and assign them and so on. So let's go and create a new blueprint component. So let's go into blueprint class and it'll be an actor component. Basically like we did with the stats system and also the attack system, we'll just add this component into our player blueprint. So it's a bit more organized. This will be BPC equipment system. Let's go ahead and open this up. Great. So now what we need to do on here is create a new function. And let's say that this will be basically add a weapon, okay? So now over here, what we can do is create a new variable, and this will be basically in general weapon slots, okay? So we'll be able, if I put the L like this, we'll be able to go ahead and assign these slots over there. So what we need to do here is change the variable type to be s slots again, and then in this case it will be an array. If you don't know what an array is, it's basically a list of items. So in our case, we'll have a list of s slots, okay? You can compile and you can see that we can start adding them on here, but of course we won't add them manually. It will be depending on which ones we pick in the inventory. So what we can do right now is get the weapon slots and basically go ahead and call this function, which will add an item. And here we're gonna say, well, which item do we want to add? Well, it will be the one that we get as an input. So let's go ahead and hover and it will create a new input, and this will be, yes, the new item. There we go. That's the item that we want to go ahead and add. So there we go. So now we can compile and save. Now let's go ahead and make a quick implementation here, and it's going ahead and, you know, being able to pick up the weapons, okay? So let's go and create a new key for that. So let's go into the third person, input, action, right click, input, action, EA underscore pick up. In the future, maybe we change, actually, yes, it's gonna be interact, okay? It makes more sense to call it interact. So let's say it's gonna be basically interact. Let's go ahead and open this. And yeah, we don't have to do anything. Let's go back into the collection, and now we can go ahead and add it. So it was interact, and now we can press this key, and let's say it's gonna be the E key, save it, and close it. So now back in here, we can delete these two things and do the EA underscore interact. Let's go with the one with the arrow, and then on here we will be able to find our items. So what we want to do is do a started a sphere trace. Let's do by channel. Okay, actually no. Sphere trace for objects. Okay, and the starting point will be basically the camera from the player and so on. So actually we need to add the begin play and basically get the owner of this component and then go ahead and cast to the third person character. So in here we'll be able to access our parent, which is the third person character blueprint, and basically access the camera over here. So let's go down and you will see here it is follow camera. So let's go ahead and right click and promote this to a variable, so we have it as a variable. So now on here later on, let's get pick up trace. We'll be able to apply our preset to just go ahead and just get the follow camera and use it as a variable. So now this will be the get weld location, okay, because I mean we want to go ahead and the starting point, and then in the follow camera get the rotation, and again the weld rotation. this case, we want to get the forward vector because we want to get the direction at which the camera is looking in front of it. And then we want to multiply this by, right click over here, command to pin into float, by the distance. So let's say it's going to be 1000 for now. Okay, we'll be able to pick up items very far away, just kind of temporary. Now we'll go ahead and get the world location and add it with the direction. So now this will give us the endpoint. The radius is going to be, for example, 15, something like that. And then for object types, we'll make an array. In this case, will be basically what was a pawn, world dynamic maybe. We'll see which one it is, the one that we want. And basically, let's say it's going to be for duration, so we can just preview it real quick. And if we have basically hit something, we will go ahead and break the hit result. And now what we want to do is go ahead and get the hit actor and cast to the weapon that we have just created. Now in this case, I don't think it's necessary to create an interface, because in this case it's specifically in the equipment system to only pick up the actual weapons. So for now, really, there's no need to create an interface. Now later on, we'll definitely go ahead and create an interact interface for other things like opening doors or whatever. If we do so, or chests in the future, I don't know, we'll be seeing. But yes, for this weapon type, I think it's better just to cast directly. And that's pretty much it. We need to go ahead and get the item data, the item data, and now we can just go and get the add weapon function that we just did create, and then pass the new item. So it will just go ahead and add this new item into our inventory, and this should go ahead and work. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this component into our player character. Just go into third person blueprints and open this up, and I'm going to go to components and add the BPC underscore equipment system. Press enter. We don't have to change anything over here, just compile and save. And I can close this and press play. So now we'll press E. You can see that we'll be creating a line trace to pick up the items that we have in front. Well, it's a sphere trace, so we have like more area to pick it up. It's easier. So now if we go here, we should be able to pick it up. As you can see, it's detecting the object. So what we need to do is go ahead and also let's say that we need to destroy this specific item. So let's go ahead and destroy the actor, so we get a feeling that we have just picked it up from the floor, and it's not just going ahead and duplicating itself or something like that. And then also let's go ahead and print basically item gathered, on that item gathered I don't know whatever, right? Just a print, so to have feeling that we have picked up something. So now here we can go and pick it up. You can see item gathered here. Now let's go ahead and check that it is actually going ahead and adding properly into our array of items, into our inventory pretty much. I mean, you could really rename this into inventory, but I just prefer to name it weapon slots for now. I think it's just more convenient. But let's go ahead and just add a new custom event. Sorry, a new custom event, no, but a key. So for example, when we press H, okay, debug H, this is basically to just debug it, okay, just to see which items we have in the inventory, because right now we don't have any UI to display it, and in this episode we are not building that. So we will go ahead and just press H and see a list of all the items that we have real quick of prints, just to us to see if it's working. Okay, this is just debug type. So what we can do is just go ahead and get the weapon slots, okay, and then do a for each loop. So it will go ahead and go through all the array of items, and on here we can just split it and split it again, and we can just go ahead and print this row item. So we can just go ahead and say print, and I'll pass this row, and now it will go ahead and print the row. Now make sure that like this is just printing the row, not the item property, okay? So make sure that you also have assigned the row name as also the name. So this is the name as a property, and this is the row name. So there are different things, but you have to also name the two, so make sure. Anyway, so now I pick this up and then press what was H. You can see that I have light sort ordered in the top left corner. Let's just go ahead and make the print. I close the other things. Duration, let's say 5. And then also, if I duplicate this object and then change the item type to be heavy sword, for example, and this is huge, I'm gonna rescale it, and then also duplicate this and put it as the wooden bow and make it a bit bigger. Okay, you can see that now I can go ahead and pick up all the different items over here, and then item gathered, and then press was H, and you can see here wooden bow, heavy sword, and light sword. So it is going ahead and working. We are being able to pick up different items for the floor, add it to an inventory, and then we can change it at any time because of our database and data table, and change its properties. Great, so if you found it so helpful, I would really appreciate if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. I have lots of Unreal Engine 5 tutorials, so when I go ahead and check them out, go ahead, join my Discord server so you can ask any questions about the series or in general about Unreal Engine, and show your progress and your work and so on, and talk with other developers such as me. And follow me on all my socials such as Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, in the next episode, we'll begin with the UI, adding the slots and be able to select them properly. We'll see how it goes depending on how the episodes last. But with all that said, bye bye.